it's sort of lapsed into being more of a marketing term. There's no value judgment on whether it's good leather. If you have a very fine grained lighter leather, I mean, you should call it whatever you want. I mean, the market will tell you if you buy two kip skin gloves in a row and they both break on a critical play in the middle of the seventh, that might be the last one of those you buy.
That's always my big thing. It's like people are like, well, how do you break it in? And it's like, well, if you broke it in a way that allows you to make plays and you're okay with the way that you're going to have to buy, if you have to buy a glove sooner because of the way you broke it in, you're okay with that, then you did a great job is kind of my opinion. Welcome into the Beyond the Glove podcast. I am your host, Ben Loafman. And so we know that ball gloves are made out of leather, and we know that leather comes from a cow. However, I get the sense that most folks in the baseball and baseball glove community don't have a ton of insight on what happens between the process of the cow and the leather that shows up at a Rawlings, Nokona, or Marucci factory to get made into a ball glove. And if you found yourself wondering about the process that must occur for a hide to turn into a piece of leather so that it can be made into a baseball glove, then this is the episode for you. Today we have Skip Horween joining us. Skip, thanks for joining us today.
You bet. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so Skip is the president of Horween Leather Company, which has been producing leather in Chicago, Illinois for nearly 120 years. And for all of those years, they've done some really impressive things. They've created leather that's been worn on shoes by U.S. presidents. They've made the leather that's been used on the NFL football for generations. And they've also been used on baseball gloves for many years, most notably the Rawlings models, which feature that distinct tan color and come with the legendary Horween name attached to them. But before we get into the details of how baseball glove leather is produced, let's not ignore the details of the Horween factory and its rich history. So Skip, if you could just tell for our listeners here, what is Horween Leather and what does your factory do?
Well, I mean, we're a sort of a boutique leather producer, and we're processing hides, primarily steerhide, but some horsehide and some bison, into leathers for a variety of customers who have specialized needs. And our challenge is always to try and be the best at what we are at helping people who are making special products for discriminating customers.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And so I kind of mentioned it earlier. So you guys have been around, I believe, like right after the turn of the 20th century, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay. And it was founded by Isidore, who I think that was your great-great-grandfather. Is that correct?
One great-grandfather.
Okay, just great. Sorry. No.
No worries.
But nice. And it's really cool because you right now, so you are the fourth president of the company,
Yes.
and all four have been from the Horween family. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you step down, I believe your son will even be taking over for you. Is that right?
That's the plan.
Nice. Perfect. So, okay. And within your factory, it is, I would encourage everybody out there. Your son, I believe, he runs the Instagram account at Horween Leather.
Yep.
So I would go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he takes amazing pictures. I mean, I'm not an objective observer, but he really captures sort of the feeling of the place, and that's what it is. I mean, tanning is very labor intensive, and we're labor intensive for a tannery.
Mm-hmm. And one of the best things, so he puts up those photos. He is a great photographer. And not only does he take the photo of what's going on or the video, but he also explains the process a little bit of all the things that go into creating a piece of leather. And he gives just a little description. And if you do, I don't know that much about leather, but if you do a little bit of research on your own and then go watch some of his videos, it's crazy how they connect with you and you're like, okay, I get what they're doing right now.
Right.
But yeah, it's really neat. How many workers do you guys have working in your factory?
Right now, I mean, all total, we're at about 105.
Okay.
It would be great to have a few more. I mean, we're out there with the rest of the world trying to find people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could do more if I had more.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the challenge all of us face.
Yeah. And you guys are on, is it Elston Avenue? Is that right? In Chicago? Okay.
Yep.
And that's factory number 1, ground zero from when you guys started?
My great grandfather started over doing just shell cordwood over on Division Street.
Okay.
And they moved here and consolidated over here in 1920.
Okay. Nice. So over 100 years though, so
Yeah, I
still
mean,
pretty
yes.
neat. So
Yeah,
nice.
for sure.
No, it's very cool. Again, you guys, if you're a baseball glove fan collector, you got to check out at Horween Leather on Instagram. You'll like it a lot.
Oh,
But yeah, so we'll transition what I think a lot of people are going to be interested in here over to the production, like how baseball glove leather might how it would be made.
sure.
And so, in my humble understanding of tanning and all that, you can correct me just if I'm completely off base. There might be like two general stages that occur in your guys' factory. From you guys get the hides, and
Hmm.
then from my understanding, I think there is a beam house phase and then a tanyard phase when you're looking at tanning, and both of those they occur at the Horween Leather Factory, correct?
So we have done that through most of our history.
Okay.
There's a Most of our beam house now we actually had to move off site
Okay.
because we couldn't staff it.
Okay. Gotcha.
And there are custom tanners that do that, who do
Hmm.
it with our formula. And
Gotcha.
so that part of it. So what people refer to variously as the tan yard, I mean, we refer to as retanning.
Okay.
And that retanning or second step, that's something we all do in varying degrees. But
Hmm.
that's where your recipes determine whether I'm making the leather that you want. So that's color, and it's oily or it's dry or it's firm or it's soft. If it's going to be finished, are we setting it up to take finishing? And so that's where we still, we have hundreds and hundreds of different recipes
Hmm.
for different leathers, depending upon customer requirement.
Okay. And so when in like a process, so you guys, so a leather hide gets delivered to a location where they go through the beam house phase.
Yes.
And so what happens within the beam house phase typically for preparing the leather? Um,
So leather that's going to become a baseball glove, and there are sort of there's a second version now, but the old school original stuff, when it shows up, it's come from a packing house, so the hair is still on it, and so the first thing that they have to do is they have to remove the hair. So the hair is removed chemically, and then they'll re-scrape the flesh side to prepare it to receive the tanning. And after that fleshing process, there's a three-step process which they call bait, pickle, and tan. The bait process is an enzyme wash, which strips the free fats out of the skin because they're ununiformly distributed. And the pickling just like it sounds, is an acid pre-tan, which prepares the fibers to accept whatever the tanning agent is going to be. And in our case, for the old school sort of heart of the hide, that was a chrome tan, and that's precipitating a chrome salt, which effectively preserves the skin at that point, and also gives it a lot of strength and heat resistance. The sort of subset to that is, we do the leather that we're doing for Nokona actually is a veg. So it actually is getting a vegetable tannage, and there are some modifications there, particularly in the type and quantity of oils that go in, so we can match the strength requirements for the leather. On its own, the chrome tan leather is generally stronger, but with modern recipes, you can make that veg tan, particularly for their requirement to do a more play ready glove. You can do something that's softer. It's sort of a cousin of what you would think of as a deerskin tannage. The old fashioned sort of Rawlings heart of the hide is fairly stout. I mean, it's got all the stuff in there, but the oils, what we would call nourishing the leather, are set up so you're going to kind of want to break that thing in, because new, it's going to be pretty stiff, until you work it. And so the good news there, of course, is once you get it broken into you, it's really yours. I mean, it bends where you bend, and someone else that would borrow your glove, it's not going to be so comfortable because we all bend in different places.
uh huh. Okay, so that's great. So for our Rawlings Heart of the Hide type gloves,
Yep.
that's going to get that what we usually hear like a chrome tan.
Yes.
And then as I was looking here, so in chrome tans they are stiff, but as I was looking online, it says that they do have a little bit of stretchiness to them, so that you can, it's
Yeah.
not like rock hard, but like you
No.
can. move it around a little bit right at the beginning.
And we did a softer version for Rawlings later, which we called Featherlight,
Okay.
and that was meant to be softer and closer to play ready. That's something that's
Hmm.
adjustable by recipe on customer need and requirement. The upside downside is the softer stuff breaks in faster and it breaks
Uh-huh.
down faster.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like it doesn't last, but if you're an infielder and you want that ball out of your glove fast, the firmer
Hmm.
glove is better. Your ability to absorb that ball coming to you will help you, and then you get the ball out for a throw.
Uh-huh.
If you're an outfielder and you're running something down, you just want something you can reach out there and really securely close around the ball as it
Uh-huh.
gets there. So the requirements are different, and it's so different from player to player.
Huh. Have you ever seen for a glove manufacturer, have they ever, for their infield gloves, gone with like a really stiff leather, but then for their outfield gloves, switched like to something a little bit softer just due to the positional requirements?
I
Have
think,
they ever?
yeah, I mean, I think
Go
they
ahead.
do some of that actually.
Really?
I mean, that's there's some great old stories about some of the major leaguers that Rawlings did custom gloves for,
Uh huh.
and guys who wanted it hard as a brick, and other guys who wanted it like a dish rag. I
Hmm.
mean, so, but some of that
Yeah.
was done by the player, the way they broke it in,
Hmm.
and some of it was done by the the either the glove maker or those custom pro gloves. The guy was, in a lot of cases, he was being instructed to break them in for the player, so
Hmm.
by the time they got them, they were ready to go.
Uh-huh. And I think so. I actually, to let all the listeners know, I had the opportunity to speak with you a few years back.
Yep,
And I want to say you shared a story with me one time from Rawlings kind of glove legend, Bob Clevenhagen. Did I say it
yep,
correctly there?
yeah,
And I think you told me that he said Ozzie Smith wanted his gloves so hard. I'll let you tell it. What was
yeah. I
Ozzie
mean,
Smith's?
he said, I mean, Ozzie Smith was his favorite player. He said Ozzie would use a glove until he could close it. And once he
Yeah.
could close it, he didn't want it. His hands were so good that he
Uh-huh.
would absorb a grounder and basically bat it to his throwing hand. And
That's awesome.
and then on the opposite side of the spectrum, closer to home for us, he said Ryan Sandberg played it with a glove that was so soft he didn't know how he could catch anything with it. He rebuilt that glove every spring for him, and
Uh-huh.
the guy was a Gold Glove infielder. So
Hey.
totally player preference, and it worked for both of them, just different.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's really cool. And then you mentioned earlier, just to circle back, so you said that Nokona,
yep,
for some of their gloves, they use people call it like veg tan or
yep,
vegetable tan.
yep.
And that's a more intensive process, right, than the chrome tanning as far as time goes?
It's just different. I mean, it doesn't
Okay.
have to be. It depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, again, we're doing that tannage we do for them is a sort of a cousin of a deer skin tannage.
Okay.
So it's
Hmm.
soft, but it's obviously quite a bit thicker
Okay.
than a deer skin. And again, you want something that you can just about take out of the box and take it to the field.
Hmm.
And if you're not, and look, there's some serious players that play with it.
Yeah.
But also, if you're more of a weekend warrior, there's a much shorter sort of learning curve
Hmm.
to get you down to where you're going to be comfortable with using them. I mean, the gloves, they're different. They're both those guys. They do just amazing work. I mean, I look at those things and kind of go, yeah, I couldn't do that. I mean, we got the easy part on that one.
Well, I don't know. From what it sounds like, you guys have some of the recipes that you guys have are pretty world class, and I'm sure
Yeah.
everybody would want to know those as well. So, okay, so you guys, you either you chrome tan, so you do the chrome tanning
Yep.
for most gloves, and
Yep.
then after you do the tanning process,
Yep.
does that occur before or does that
Before.
occur before? Okay, and
I mean,
basically, oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
when we do our initial grading with our chrome tan stock, I mean, the first thing that happens is we're grading that leather like you'd grade a piece of lumber. You want grain clarity
Hmm.
for defects, and for those Rawlings gloves, I mean, they're looking for basically zero defects,
Okay.
and that's a very small number of hides that are like that. Because the way we do it, there's basically no finish on it, so
Uh
there's
huh.
there's nothing for me to hide I mean, it's still, I mean, historically still true. About 5% of what I look at would be good enough for a glove. I
Okay.
mean, you could make the glove out of the rest, but it's going to have some scratches or scarring on it,
Uh
and
huh.
they want in the beginning. I mean, always so ironic to me because the first thing you do with that glove is you spit on it, rub with oil, to throw a ball in out of it. But off the shelf, they want it to be effectively pristine looking and perfect. So it's a very few. I mean, that would be something we would always have to accumulate enough to
Uh huh.
make a run of glove out of it. And then once we know we're doing it, then we split it because
Okay.
there's a weight that we're looking for ball glove leather, and then from there it gets its retanning, which in the case of glove is a is a chrome retan with a pretty rich blend of oils that go in
Okay.
there, so that it will have its stand, but will eventually break down to where in the places you want it to be soft, it will become soft.
Mm-hmm. Can you say that percentage again one more time of the what Rawlings wants from you guys for their Heart of the Hides?
Sure, of the hides that we sort, about 5% are good enough.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
So I
Wow.
mean, it's really, yeah. I mean, it's the cream. I mean, you're skimming off the best of the best.
Mm-hmm. It's that's awesome to hear. Just being in the glove world because it's like
Yeah.
just to know because I work on a baseball glove website all day and you see
Yep.
all of these gloves and you're like, maybe it's easy. It's not. Like that's good to hear that it is 5% that you
Well,
guys are.
you could. I mean, again. So, and there's people other than us. With all due respect to them, I mean, there's some very nice baseball gloves that are being made by other people. And if you're allowed to do some finishing, you can upgrade the cosmetics of those so that it'll make a perfectly fine ball glove. There's nothing, again, player choice, whether you like a different brand or a different feel. That's not for us to determine. They do, and it works, so it's right. It's right for that player. They if you do that finishing, the percentage of hides that will work goes up dramatically. The amount that you can cut from each hide into a glove goes up dramatically. It's better geared for someone that wants to make more, absolutely more pieces. Um, and you can tell. I mean, the sort of dumbed down test with how much finish is you take a little bit of oil and put it on the glove. Put it on one of our gloves, it'll suck straight in. If you put it on a finished piece of leather, it'll tend to want to beat up for a while. You'll be able to work it in, but it's not going to soak up like it's like putting it on a piece of painted wood or on a piece of sanded wood.
Uh huh.
On the sanded wood, it just drops right in. And on the painted wood, you'll get it worked in there, but it'll take a little more elbow grease.
Nice. That is a really cool test to for people to know, like how just
Yeah.
to put and see how it soaks in. That's really neat. And so you had kind of given a precursor to this. So you kind of talked about so with like you get the leather's been split, it's tanned, and then the dyeing process. So
Yep.
obviously there's going to be you go to shop for a Rawlings Heart of the Hide, and those gloves are typically that you can get them in different colors. Does
Yes.
that dyeing process does that also occur at your guys' factory?
Yes. So they'll order by quantity. I mean, forever, tan was the number one color. And I mean, so inside everybody, and we used to call it by what they had, years and years ago, and tan for them was code 5.
Okay.
So
Uh huh.
so code 5 was number one for them. That was the tan color. And
Okay,
then there
I'm
was,
gonna interrupt here. Is code
yeah,
5 is that is that Horween color? Is that what that
that
is?
was no, that was their designation for our tan.
Okay, gotcha. Code 5. Okay, nice.
I
Go
mean,
ahead.
and in our long-winded, we was it was tan. It was Horween X catcher's mitt glove. That was what
Okay.
we called it.
Okay.
And then black got to be bigger and bigger, and of course they'd added some leathers over the years. So the black, that was code 9.
Hmm.
I mean,
Okay.
we were pretty simple. One number. We didn't have all these long barcodes. It was like 5 was good, 9 was good,
Nice.
and everybody knew what you were talking about.
Nice. That's awesome. Okay. And so kind of so that and just to make sure I have that right. So
Yep,
code 5
yep,
when you have Rawlings making their gloves that they're going to give it's like a Rawlings Horween model,
Yep.
that's the tan that they're
Yep.
using on
That was
those
the tan.
gloves.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
Huh,
correct.
that is awesome.
Yep.
I don't know, whenever I see that color, man, I've never had one that is that tan, but Rawlings for some company out there made like a remake of the Cal Ripken Jr. model
Yep.
where it has the single finger backing and the
Yep.
H web,
Yep.
and it was yeah, dude,
Super cool.
that's one of my favorite gloves of all time. I
Super cool.
just
The
think
other
it
thing
looks
for
so.
us, I mean, it's weird because there's such a tactile experience, and there's so much about leather. There is a blend that is proprietary to us of the oils and things that are in that leather,
Uh
and it
huh.
has a very distinctive smell.
Okay.
I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's something you can identify. You should let me know afterwards, and I'll send you a little jar of it.
Okay.
It's so distinctive, and you can put
Really.
it on any of your gloves. It's awesome. It's great.
Nice. I'll have to. I feel like you guys should maybe go into like a scent, like for people's
Yeah,
car or something like that. You can make a little air scent or something
yeah. I
like
mean,
that.
there was guys here for a giveaway that the Cubs did. They bought some leather and they upholstered a couple of VW Bugs with that ball glove leather as prizes
Okay.
for a contest. I don't know, it's 30 years ago.
Okay. This is cool that you're saying this. So, in our building here, in our walkway, we
Yeah.
have a sheet. We have a few huge sheets that are sewn together of Nokona leather that they
Yep.
use. And I would imagine that those are probably from you guys, is would be my
They
guess.
they use it depends. I mean,
Okay.
they use a bunch of different leathers, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, maybe.
Could be. It smells fantastic, I
Yeah.
guess.
Oh
Is,
yeah.
what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
getting at. Okay. So finally, we got our gloves. They've gone through the beam house. They've had the hair pulled off.
Yep.
They've scraped the meat off as well.
Yep.
Then you do the tanning process.
Yep.
They've been dyed to their color, and
Yep.
then you're going to ship the hide at that point, I would guess,
Yep.
to the factory that's going to build the glove.
Wherever they designate the ship to, we will ship it
Okay.
anywhere.
And does it come with is it like when they get it, do you guys cut it into like sheets, or is it like that cow? Is it that cow back?
It's half a cow.
Okay, half a cow. Okay, nice.
Yep.
So that's how they
Yep.
get them. And then that's when they're able to get their dyes and they like cut them and get them into the ball glove shape. Okay, nice. That is pretty cool. And so for you guys right now, we've mentioned a couple manufacturers. So we know Rawlings, we know Nokona. I feel like you guys provide some to Marucci as well. Is that correct?
We have. I mean, on a regular basis, it's been Rawlings and Nokona most regularly.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. But that's really cool. I mean, I just love that like you guys have such a great history, and Rawlings has such a great history, and you guys
Yep.
work together so well on
Yeah.
the baseball side. So that's awesome. So we have that grasp now on the process that occurs before the leather arrives at a glove building factory, but there are a few terms that just we get thrown around all the time within baseball gloves. And again, I don't know that we always understand exactly what the terms, what they mean. And the big one, I'm sure you've spent your whole life debunking this a little bit, but genuine leather is a big term that's out there in the leather. And just as like a novice person, you hear the word genuine and you're like, huh, that seems really nice. But I don't think that that's always the case. What is genuine leather?
Yeah. I mean, you ask 10 people, you get 11 answers. I mean, genuine leather would be, by the definition of it, it's a tanned piece of animal skin. And just in that, I mean, a split, which is primarily for suede, is genuine leather. I mean, that's not judging that. I mean, any of the exotic skins that they tan, it's genuine leather. It's been preserved and treated so that it can be used in different finished products. So the genuine leather thing, the big fight gets to be where people have used the terms like composite leather, because composite leather is not leather. Composite leather is synthetic. It's a blown microfiber, most of it, and that's confusing to people. And if you want to call it a fantastic synthetic substitute, I got no issue with it. But if you're using leather in the term,
Uh huh.
it's misleading. So genuine leather would have been from an animal skin.
Gotcha. Okay. So that is so if we hear genuine leather, we do know that. We know that at least we're unless they're completely lying to us, it came from an animal at some point.
Correct.
So
Correct.
okay, that's good to know. And then so I feel like and maybe this is the same exact we're getting ourselves in the same exact position here, but the next terms that I know are usually like top grain and full grain. So and I think technically that's usually better than genuine leather, but I think probably like you said, you might get 11 answers if you ask
Yeah,
10 people.
no, I mean that one's actually a little more straightforward.
Okay.
So so a suede is
Mhm.
not a top grain.
Okay.
I mean, it's that's the grain is gone and they've sanded it to now there are coatings that you can put on it so it will look like a piece of
Mhm.
grain, but it's no longer top grain leather.
Okay.
And the distinction, which is complicated when you first hear it and makes perfect sense once you mull it through, is is all full grain leather is top grain,
Okay. Uh-huh.
but all top grain leather is not full grain.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I can correct grain, which is done by sanding, and
Okay.
it's still top grain leather, but it's
Mhm.
no longer full grain leather.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
again, by automatically saying it's not necessarily going to be worse, even
Mhm.
for something like a glove. That's
Mhm.
that's based on look and preference and customer design. And I mean, it's misleading to say that a corrected grain leather is a full grain leather,
Okay.
but it's not misleading to call either of them top grain leather.
Okay. There you go.
And as a general statement, the feeling is that there's generally greater durability in the top grain.
Okay.
Now, and
Really?
having said that, or I mean, because it is full grain also. I mean
Okay.
that covers both. And having said that, for example, in the world of farriers and horseshoeing, they
Mhm.
use these aprons which are splits, and they're
Mhm.
very heavy and they're tanned to be durable, and they're plenty durable. It's not that they're not. They'd
Okay.
be even more durable if they had the grain on them. But it's
Okay.
again, and that is as difficult as an environment as you could put anything in. So
Okay.
the value judgment is how good were we? How good was our recipe? And how well
Mhm.
did we execute it? And how good was the glove maker? And how well did they execute theirs?
Okay.
Because you could make an awesome split leather glove, wouldn't be a bad glove, but it's just not going to be exactly the same. And then
Okay.
it's up to the player to decide maybe they like it better. I
Yeah.
you know, I was a people didn't write stories about the way I played baseball. I'll tell you that much. So I mean, I told you, I think in that last process, I played high school baseball and led our high school team in hit by pitch all 4 years.
There you go.
So that was my skill. That
Nice.
was my
And
superpower.
nice. Hey, that's not a bad. There's been
on,
some
on
good
first a
players.
lot. I was on first a lot.
There you go. That's half the battle if Moneyball taught us correctly is getting
That's
on
right.
first. So
Never up,
that's
never
cool.
in.
So and so top grain. So top grain you said is typically considered more durable than the full grain.
No,
Is that oh
no.
no no no.
Top
Okay.
top grain would be considered more durable than a split.
Then it's split. Okay, okay,
Right.
perfect. Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
yes,
That's
understood.
all.
Yes. But and I think it's fair to say after your description of the Rawlings, heart of the hide, everything that's going to heart of the Rawlings heart of the hide is full grain because
Is
you're
full
not
grain.
I mean that's
That's correct.
top 5% and you're not sanding
That's correct.
anything or anything like
Absolutely
that.
correct.
Okay.
We're trying to show it off. It's like one of those antique boats where you're showing off the mahogany. You're not trying to
Uh-huh.
paint that grain. You want people to see that grain.
Nice. That's awesome. Okay. And then the last terms that I feel like we hear all the time. So we got steerhide, we got kip, and we got cowhide. So uh, I think it's like I'll go ahead. I'll let you. So what's steerhide? You let us know what
So
steerhide is.
again, I mean, the simplification is, you know, technically speaking, all steerhides are cowhides, but
Okay.
not all cowhides are steers.
Okay.
And that's part of steerhide is a gender assignment.
Okay.
Because there's bull hides, and then a steer is a bull that's been neutered,
Okay. Uh huh.
and a cow is a female.
Uh huh.
But the generic term for all of it is cowhide.
Gotcha.
A
Okay.
cowhide will act because of gender. A cow, particularly a dairy animal, that hide would act differently if you made it into a glove than a steer hide. It's
Okay.
going to tend to have more. It's going to be naturally thinner and have some more stretch. Again,
Okay.
not necessarily bad by definition,
Yeah.
but different.
Nice.
Just different. And a kip. So years ago, when there was a lot more calfskin being used, particularly in dress shoes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that designated a certain size of hide,
Mm-hmm.
and that boundary has been bent, to say the least. So
Okay.
there are larger and larger hides that are being called um, calf, and above a certain boundary, those years ago, there was something that wasn't considered to be a full-grown steer, that also wasn't a calf anymore, and that was a kip. So it was a finer grain than a steer hide, but was larger and thicker than a calfskin. So that's a kip. By definition, that's a kip skin. Now, there are some folks who've taken some license with that, because if you have a half hide that's 18, 19, 20 square feet and call it a kip, it's a name. It's not actually an accurate description of what that hide was. I mean, it used to be a kip, like you and I used to be teenagers, but
Okay. Okay. Nice.
it's a good goal.
Okay. That is interesting because the kip gets used a lot right now
Mm,
within ball gloves. So, and there's a lot of wondering, like a lot of people wonder. It's like, well, is this? So it would be fair to say that there's probably a distinction between brands when it comes to the kip they're using and how true that kip claim is on each glove.
right. I mean, and again, it's sort of lapsed into being more of a marketing term. There's no value judgment on whether it's good leather. If you have
Hmm.
a very fine grained lighter leather, I mean, you should call it whatever you want. I mean, the market will tell you if you buy two kip skin gloves in a row and they both break on a critical play in the middle of the seventh,
Yeah.
that might be the last one of those you buy.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
so that so that's not. I mean, it's nice. It's not automatically better. It's
Okay.
not it could be, but it's not automatically. And
Nice.
that's just my opinion. I mean, that's
No, that's good to hear. Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to, when when you shop for a glove, I mean, it really all does come down to like, what are people that have used the glove said about it? So it is true to know that those are important conversations to have and information to gather. So,
and again, you get back to the higher up the chain you go in ball players' skill, the more they can distinguish between those subtle differences in the leathers and the glove constructions. And for those of us who played at it effectively, we wanted something that was good and sturdy that you could go to every time. The subtleties were sort of lost on on most of us, and if it works, it's good. I mean, that's if it doesn't, it isn't. It doesn't matter what kind of skin it was. I mean, it's if you get it and you can consistently get it and break it in and it does what you want it to do, that's good leather and it's a good glove.
I love your take on gloves. Just with that's always my big thing. It's like people are like, well, how do you break it in? And it's like, well, if you broke it in a way that allows you to make plays, and you're okay with the way that you're gonna have to buy, if you have to buy a glove
Yep,
sooner because of the way you broke it in, you're okay with that, then
yep,
you did a great job. Is
yep.
is kind of my opinion.
Right,
And I do love as well when you've shared. You mentioned it earlier. It's like, well, what do you do immediately when you get a glove? You immediately
right,
start breaking it down.
right,
So,
for sure. I mean, and that's to you. I mean, that's sort of the most uh, usual for those of us that played it. That's your customization. You're making it work for you. So, which is one of the attractions to the game, right? It's you. You look. Everybody can throw, but they don't throw the same. I mean, the mechanics of the way people throw is different on every player. I mean, there are some basics that are similar, but it's like I I enjoyed the game, but I couldn't throw to save myself. I mean, he put me in places where I couldn't hurt the team. I mean, let's just call it what it was. So,
that's funny. And I think I might have heard this from you. I can't remember where I heard it from first, but talking about gloves, someone was like, "I think that we too much think about our gloves like we would think about a purse." It's like when you get a purse, the first thing you do, you don't go outside and rub it in the dirt like the very first thing that you do. It's like gloves and purses are different, like in
Right.
to know what
Yeah.
you're talking about as well.
I mean,
So,
because we had talked about that with some of the guys. One of the ways, if you wanted to lower the raw material cost, would be to accept some skins with some of these natural defects, because it's
mhm.
not going to change the durability or the playability of the glove. I mean, again, it's just like if you like wood paneling that's got knots and a natural look to it, it doesn't mean the table's going to wear out any sooner.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if you're good with it looking like it used to be on an animal, which, by the way, it was, then all good. I mean, you can do
Yeah.
all kinds of things with it.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, thank you for joining us this far. But before we let you go, I can't let you out of here without a few stories from you. One of the things that I kind of love about Horween Leather is that you guys are huge you have a huge name within the baseball glove market, but you yourself, you're not a huge baseball fan. You've told me in the past. I think that you said you're a little bit more of a hockey fan. Is that right?
Yeah, I was. I
Okay.
play. I was better at it. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
I like.
Yeah.
I liked it.
No,
I
I
liked
just
it a
love
lot.
I love that. That's the beautiful part about it. It's like how that's the cool thing about the sporting goods market. I
Yeah.
feel like there are athletes who have made huge changes within sporting goods
Yeah.
that have like the smallest names, and they've made like there's a Rawlings glove that's called the NP, and it's named after Nafi Perez, who had a pretty short career. But I think it's cool that you guys have such a big impact. But baseball might not be top of mind for you all the time. But even with that, so we all have a glove story in us. And I think that you had a pretty good one. Did you lose a special glove that your dad got
Yeah.
for you?
So when they first were playing around with, which I think was what became the H web,
Uh-huh.
Rawlings made 3 gloves for Brooks Robinson when he was
Okay.
playing with Baltimore. And Rawlings had one, and Brooks Robinson had one, and my dad had one, which he gave to me,
Uh-huh.
and it was an amazing, amazing glove. And I was, sort of middle school, pre-high school, and I was playing with it all the time. It was such an amazing glove, and I used to take the CTA, public
Hmm.
transportation, home. And so I was on my way home, and I got off the bus. I got in the house, and I realized that I'd left this glove on the bus. And I
Oh
immediately
man.
called Lost and Found. He goes, "Was it a nice glove?" I said, "Yep." And he goes, "It's gone."
Not even gonna check.
Yeah, there's no reason. That's already found its new home. I mean, it was just I was crushed. It was. I mean,
That's
and
funny.
and the other one I think I told you was, they did for us at the time was, when they were early days in their customization
Uh-huh.
of gloves. I had to make one for my son Nick when
Okay.
he was playing Little League at that time, and they would do it, and they would embroider the name on the thumb,
Okay.
and then they would change the stamping inside, so his name Nick Horween, so it was stamped as the Pro NH for Nick
Oh,
Horween.
okay.
So
That's
I get this
cool. Oh,
glove, and I called him up, and I said, "All right, so I have a surprise for you." And I said, I raised you up to tell the truth all the time, no matter what. But I'm bringing you a surprise today, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. But I think it's so cool that if you don't think it's cool, I want you to lie to me. You never have to use it, but when you first see it, I want you to act really excited.
that's funny.
So I gave it to him, and he started to play with it. He still has it. So
Nice. That's
that
really
that was
cool.
maybe my more favorite glove story, because we still have that glove.
You do. Yeah, there you go. It's still with you. That's funny. So your dad, he was Arnold the second,
He was
correct?
Arnold Jr.
Arnold Jr. Okay, perfect. And he bought you that he got you that Rawlings Brooks Robinson model. And then his father was aren't the original Arnold in your guys' family, correct? And this is pretty awesome, even though it's not connected to baseball at all. But I feel like we got to say it here. So Arnold, your grandfather, he played in the NFL, correct?
He did. He and his brother.
Okay, and that is what launched. Aside from that's awesome that he played in the NFL, but that is you guys have been producing the leather for the football that's been used in the NFL. Is it for over 80 years? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
we're
Somewhere
right
around
about
there.
that. And
And go ahead. I think that his playing in the NFL helped launch that. Is that correct?
yeah, because he met George Hallis as he was moving the Decatur Staleys up to Chicago to become the Bears.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And so there was a lot of back and forth about, we're using this ball and this leather, and we ought to be able to do better than this. So there was a lot of back and forth, and Wilson was producing here at the time. So
Uh
there'd
huh.
be a suggestion, and they'd make a ball, and they would take it to a Bears practice, and you get sort of instant feedback. And it took a
Uh huh.
while. I mean, it was not
Really,
like a couple of tries. It took years before we
really
got it to where it was good enough that it was something they wanted to switch to.
nice. And that was all because you guys had the leather fact. I mean, it was already pumping at that time when he was playing it in the NFL. So nice.
He was
That is
he told the football story overlap, which is great because I always tell him because he always told it was he always insisted that he was the reason that George Hallis stopped playing professional football
okay.
because he played for the Cardinals who were here at the time, and he said
Mhm.
I never could run worth a darn. He goes, and I was playing, and I was a linebacker, and Hallis was a flanker, and he
Uh huh.
caught a pass, and he said, and I caught him from behind, and as we got up off the ground, he said, if I got so slow that you can catch me from behind, I should stop playing.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Are you guys big Bears fans?
We try to be.
There you go. Yeah, I figured that was gonna be the answer.
Yeah, yes, I guess. I
Nice.
mean, it's not easy at times. I mean, we'd love to see them
Yeah.
have slightly more success. I mean,
Mhm.
particularly, when they play the little team from up north that seems to own us for decades at a time. But it's what it is.
Yeah, we've been spoiled here in Kansas City for a few years now. So
Yeah, pretty good, I think.
yeah,
Right?
we've been it's been all right. So I
I
can't
mean, yeah, it's big fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll let you off, but I got three questions for you before we end. So they're going to be really quick, just short answers. So I imagine you've been able to keep a few items over the years that have been crafted from leather that was made in your factory. What's your most cherished?
Oh wow. Um, I do have an old razor strap that was my grandfather's.
Okay, nice. That's cool. Okay, Horween Factory. You guys are in Chicago. You've spent all your life in and around the city. Do you prefer pizza, Chicago style pizza, or Chicago dog?
Pizza guy.
There you go. I love it. And then the last one, bustling city. How do you get to work each day?
I take the train. Actually, I live out in the suburbs, so I
You
take the
do?
train stops right across the street.
That's awesome. Really cool to hear. Well, thank you, Skip, for joining us. We appreciate you hopping on. Everybody out there watching, we appreciate you guys. If you want to share the podcast, we'd greatly appreciate it. I think that's how we're going to get the word out about this content. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. And if you guys are listening on Spotify or Apple, a 5-star rating would be greatly appreciated. Until next time, we'll see you.